It's always hard at this time of the year making this list, trying not to pull any books I've read that were released in the second half of the year. Welcome to the top 10 books that I read in the first half of 2023. Woo! Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel every week and then movie reviews here at the weekend. In the description box below, you will find my blog and my Goodreads links where I have reviews of, I think, all of these books. So yeah, if you're looking for a written review of any one of these, then go and look there. And all these books will be linked in the description box below in case you hear of something that you're like, have to have that book in my life. This is in no particular order, and it's just my top 10 of the books that I read so far, released in the first half of 2023. So first of all, we have The Book Lovers Retreat by Heidi Swain. I did have a physical copy of this one, but I gave it away because it's just so amazing. I mean, it's called The Book Lovers Retreat, let's face it, but it is, romance and friendship and loving books, and it's all set in the Lake District, and that's basically all you need to know. If that's not enough of a pitch to get you to love this one too, then I don't know what is. Then we have the Cassandra Complex by Holly Smale. Again, I do have a full written review of this one on my blog. Oh, it's so shiny this morning, too much light. Just about here. Hey. This one is Own Voices for Autism and has a little bit of time travel in it, hence the front of the book. But I love the fact that this cover is like the card that happened on the TV when the TV finished. I absolutely love this. This one, that Cassandra isn't a character that's easy to like, but she's definitely easy to sympathize with, and I feel like by the end of the book you're completely empathizing with her as well. If you can suspend your disbelief for a tiny bit of time travel, which, I mean, this is me we're talking about. I don't really do magical realism at all. I don't do fantasy. I could do Star Wars because it's realistic enough. But yeah, I love this one and I would recommend it to anyone. And I could definitely see me rereading it. And I mean, I love Holly Smale anyway. But this is adult fiction from Holly Smale. Absolutely amazing. Then moving on, remember this is in no particular order. I've got a couple of paperbacks which I will nip and get, but it's just been Pride Month, so obviously we have to talk about Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertalli. I think this is the only YA book that's on my list. I feel like I definitely read less YA since being back in the UK. I think my library in the US had just such an amazing YA section and such amazing YA audiobooks as well. I do still check on there for my YA audiobooks, but I got a review copy of this one, so I read it. It's got wonderful bi representation and covers the fact that people are like, oh no, you're just an ally, you can't be gay. Oh, you're just an ally, you like boys, you can't be gay. And so it was wonderful watching Imogen go through this self-discovery and sense of identity check, and then discover that actually people around her were sort of harmful towards that as opposed to supportive of that as they should be. And it took her finding a group of people who were like, yeah, you be who you want to be, Imogen, to discover that. There is some lying that goes on in this one, but I think it's protective lying rather than lying that's going to hurt or harm anybody, which made me a little bit uncomfortable. But I think the fact that it's protective lying was great. And I read this book in exactly one sitting. I just absolutely adored it. I, again, highly, highly recommend this book. I love Becky Albertalli's writing and I love what she does. And I'm very lucky to have met her. And this latest one is just, it's potential. Oh, I don't know. I was going to say it's potentially better than Leah on the Offbeat for me, which is one of my favourite books of all time. But I could just spend a day reading Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, Leah on the Offbeat, and then Imogen, obviously, and just be a very happy bunny. I think that sounds like an ideal day. Obviously, reading those, I'd have to have a pack of Oreos with me, but that would be okay. And then we have one that I got on audiobook knowing nothing about it. And this is an auto by author for me anyway, but I started listening and I was like so desperate to get back into the audiobook. It's one of those that you sit in the car and you keep listening because you just have to find out what happens. And this one is adult fiction, back to adult fiction again. And this is Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes. I absolutely love this cover. I think I love both the US and the UK covers for this one. But this one is, literally what happens when you walk a mile in someone else's shoes. How does your life change? And I remember saying to you at the time of reading this book, I was really worried that when the owners of the two shoes that had been mixed up at the gym got reunited, I was worried that the book was going to stop, and it looked like that was happening around 40%. But when the owners of the shoes get reunited and when they pull forces, having both walked a mile in each other's shoes, oh my goodness, that's when the action really happens. I absolutely love this one. This is proper girl power book. But also, yeah, like you're only one decision away from like your life completely changing and completely imploding, or completely going the opposite way as well. And so that was really interesting. Then we'll go all the way back to January. And we have Miranda Dickinson. You know, Miranda Dickinson is a firm favourite here on this channel. And this one is All My Love, like I say, going all the way back to January now. The tagline for this one is A Secret Crush, A Perfect Love Letter, Will They Take a Chance? And I just love the fact that the title on this one is written in Post-its, because this is a meet cute that starts on a Post-it. Again, just talking about these books, there's a reason that these are my top 10. Talking about them with you here today, I immediately want to like stop filming and sit down and reread all of them. I would love to reread this one. I think this one I may have read as my like final book I read before going back to school in January. I think I may have read it on like the 5th of January, and that was the best use of that final day of freedom. Definitely. I absolutely love this one. It's got just classic Miranda Dickinson heart moments. It's just full of love and full of friendship and full of sage old people giving you like advice that's just backed up by years of wisdom, and I really love that about it, and just again highly recommend. Just talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah. And then one that I did as a buddy read with the lovely Hayley, this one follows on from The Soulmate Equation that came out last year, but this is Christina Lauren, The True Love Experiment. It's got some reality TV, it's got some kind of like enemies to lovers trope, it's got different settings, it's just and then it's got favourite characters that we met in The Soulmate Equation. Now, you don't have to have read The Soulmate Equation in order to enjoy this one, but this one is just like Christina Lauren romance at its finest, and I just really liked buddy reading it with Hayley, because I would sometimes send her lines that I'd just read in the book, and she was at a really similar point to me. We weren't reading a specific amount a day, we were just both listening to the audiobook, and I'd just send her lines and she'd just like respond with the next line. It was so fun. If you don't buddy read books, I do recommend it. It's not the same as like everybody reading a book a month for a book club. It's just like, oh, we're enjoying this book together, we're laughing about it together, there's revelations and we can gasp about it together. And if there's amazing lines written by Christina Lauren, then we can, enjoy those together too. And then one that I listen to that every time I look at my skirting boards, I think of this book, which sounds like a weird thing and sounds like, oh, well, it must be boring then. But it's not, because I listened to the audiobook of this book entirely whilst painting the skirting boards in my rooms upstairs, having just moved into my house / hadn't quite moved in. I think we were still living across the way then, but I was coming over here and painting. And, this was so intense. I gasped and I cried, and it's not often that I cry at an audiobook. Generally, I have to have the book in front of me in order to cry at it. I don't often cry when I'm just listening to a book, but this is The Girl from Donegal by Carmel Harrington, which it's full of, again, Carmel Harrington's signature kind of two location, two timeline things going on. She does these kind of women featured in different stages and locations of their lives, but having a really shared experience, and there being some links somewhere that you have to work out as you go along. This one gave me Titanic vibes, and I was like, this isn't actually going to happen, is it? But then was also kind of like a little bit kind of Notebook vibes, which I really enjoyed it. I loved the flipping back and forth between the two timelines and the two characters. And it was one of those where you would go into the timeline for one character and be like, no, I need to get back to that other timeline because I need to know what happens. And then you would finally get back to that timeline and be like, no, I need to know what was happening in the other timeline. And so this is why I didn't mind painting my skirting boards, and I kind of look at them fondly because I was like, oh, I remember listening to Carmel Harrington whilst painting these skirting boards and just having a good time, and then sitting in the middle of the empty room on the carpet crying multiple times. And then finally I have some physical books for you, so hopefully there shouldn't be issues with the sun shining on these. This one is still tabbed up because I did this as a buddy read with Hayley as well, and this one is 7 Exes by Lucy Vine. If you haven't read any Lucy Vine yet, do yourself a favour and get her on your TBR now. This one is Esther going out with her two friends, finding a magazine stuffed behind the booth in a bar, reading this article about how, you have 7 exes and one of those is the person you're meant to end up with, and so redating her 7 exes. It was a little bit like What's Your Number, that was a book, and then a movie with Anna Faris and a load of other people. I think all the Chris's were in it, I think. And it was just giving me those vibes, and that's like one of my favourite films, and I really enjoyed the book first. Why have I never made a book versus movie about that one? Should do that. Should reread and rewatch and do that. Maybe that could be a little summer project for me. Can you see summer's on the horizon? It's very exciting. And then this one is just, it's full of Lucy Vine hilariousness, and Lucy Vine just like her characters loving who they want to love and being who they want to be and just being completely open. I made a video a couple of years back going, is this the perfect read for Pride Month? So I will leave that linked up above because that was a Lucy Vine novel, and then this one has queer representation in, and it's just I love it. It's so funny. She's so hilarious. This is amazing. I think we did tab it up, but then we ended up racing through, both of us racing through. And then my copy is also signed, which I love too. I'm trying to find the page, but I think this is a proof copy. So it's like, yes, apparently I'm the best. So there you go. And then 2 more physical books that I didn't read as physical book form, but I do have physical copies of them. One of them I was going to get signed at an event, and then I didn't end up being able to stay in the queue because I had do you know what it was? I was about to tick over into another hour of my parking, and I was like, this is going to cost me like an extra £2.50. Or I could go home now and like eat some chips in the car. We'll do that instead. But anyway, this one is Maybe Tomorrow by Penny Parks. And this book is just doing something that no other books out there are currently doing. And I really, really applaud and commend Penny Parks for this. So this is a story of friendship and hope that maybe tomorrow will bring a brighter day than today. Jamie Matson has once enjoyed a wonderful life working along her best friend, organising adventures for single-parent families. Sounds amazing. But she hadn't been prepared to lose her business, her home and her friend, not all in one dreadful year. We can imagine which dreadful year that was, can't we? And Jamie certainly hadn't expected to find such hope and camaraderie in the queue at her local food bank. Thrown together with an unlikely and colourful group of people, their friendships flourish. Finding it easier to be objective about each other than about themselves, they decide that when you're out of options, it's okay to bend the rules a little and create your own. And this one has Jamie's son, who Penny Parks does write children well, and she writes them well in terms of them being kind of like the punchline or the comedy moment in the dark moments, or the punchline in the joke, or they come in with the punchline of the joke. And I think in a book that deals with sort of like living right on that poverty line like this one does, I think that he was just what you needed. He was like the secret ingredient in this book, but also their friendship, and friendship in like unlikely places and from unlikely people was also like a real massive, like, big point of this book. And although it is a chunky book, it is a 500 pager, I read a big chunk of this one all at once to begin with. What we got, 513, that's how many pages it is. But I highly recommend, and I feel like it's not something that anybody else is writing about, and so Penny Parks has done a really good job of just kind of like finding that gap in the market. And I just, you know, I would like to read more about Jamie or the other characters. Just saying, Penny Parks, just saying. And then this one is the one that I didn't get signed, but I bought the like beautiful sprayed edges edition of because it was so cute. So I got this one in Asda. This isn't a sticker, it's a permanent sticker. So there's the beautiful petals of a flower under here, under this permanent sticker. I don't need that on the front of my book. Thanks, Asda. Only Love Can Hurt Like This, an earth-shattering secret, a life-changing love story. Hayley and I read this one as the first book of 2023. We specifically wanted this to be the first book of 2023. When Ren realises that her fiancé is in love with someone else, she thinks her heart will never recover. On the other side of the world, let's go over to Indiana. Why not? Anders lost his wife 4 years ago and is still struggling to move on. When hopes that spending the summer with her dad and stepfamily in their farm in Indiana will help her to heal there. Amid the cornfields and fireflies, she and Anders cross paths and their worlds are turned upside down again. But Ren doesn't know that Anders is harbouring a secret, as if he acts on any feelings he has for Ren, it will have a serious fallout for everyone. And we have a meet cute in the middle of a field here. I mean, what's better than that? A bit of a drunken meet cute in the middle of a field as well. I love the fact that this book was set in Indiana. Again, I don't feel like anyone's doing that right now. I've just not read an awful lot of books set in Indiana, and sort of not in Indianapolis, Indiana. I think that we have some John Green books set there, but not in a major city. This is like in a smaller town, as we heard, on a farm in the middle of a field. You know, there's the meet cute. And this one, it was just lovely. I loved the location. I could feel the heat. I could absolutely feel the heat that Ren was feeling. And then this kind of like, will they, won't they, heartbreaking back and forth, both these characters being held back by their past demons. It was just beautiful to read, and I'm so glad that A, it was my first read of the year, and B, that I did a buddy read of this one with Hayley, because it was just fabulous. So there you have it, my top 10 of the first 6 months of the year. There are some massive books coming out in the month of July, one of which, if you haven't already seen my May wrap up, it would be my June wrap up. I mean, two of the books on my June wrap up, one in my May wrap up and one in my June wrap up, which are released in July, I said, this will be on my top 10 of the year. And I'm about to pick up another book by one of my all-time favourite authors. It will probably end up on my top 10 of the year. So which of these books do you think will make it onto my top 10 of 2023 overall? That's the tricky thing, isn't it? So yeah, do let me know in comments what have been your favourite reads of 2023 so far. Have you read any of these books? Do you agree with me that they're as amazing as they are? Always happy to chat in comments. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you are subscribed and hit that notification bell, because I do have some standalone reviews coming your way, and potentially a book versus movie to make. I still can't believe I've not made one of The Devil Wears Prada, so I need to do that one too, don't I? So yes, I will be back with another video very soon. So I will see you then. Thanks for watching.